Sometimes children give us an interesting perspective on death and life after death and grief. One of our first grade teachers at my last parish had recently buried her mom, and after school I asked her what it was like to be her, and she said, well, earlier this week I was at the kitchen table getting some stuff ready, and I just started crying, and I sat there crying, and my son Teddy, who's 5 years old, came up to comfort me. Now, Teddy had evidently heard the kinds of things people said about death and life after death, and I understand his attempt here. She said, Teddy went up, put his arms around his mom's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, Mom, you'll be dead soon." Yeah. I get his point, yeah. And knowing that there is a life beyond this life, as little Teddy had heard, certainly can give us peace in the midst of our losses. But that does not take away our emptiness or our pain. When someone we love dies, the world is changed forever. There is a pain and loneliness at the grief of a death of a loved one that is perhaps unimaginable, except to those who have themselves loved and said that goodbye. And no one can tell you rightly that they know just how you feel. From that slow motion moment when you first get the news, to driving in the funeral procession, watching the rest of the cars go by as if nothing ever happened, to going through the loved ones, things that they've left behind, and to waking up in the middle of the night wishing you could hug them again, to trying to keep breathing as you make your way through anniversaries, birthdays, holidays, all those things they used to be a part of, to that slow, empty realization that they are never again walking into your arms. At the death of a loved one, life is changed forever. And for many, it is as if someone reached inside of us and ripped out a big part of our hearts. And we have so many answered questions then, huh? Is there something we should have done? And where are they now? And are they okay? And why? And a lot of the unspoken questions get to the question of God and where God is or isn't in the midst of that. Why would God allow this? What is God doing? I have a special frustration about the well-intentioned cliches we use at times of death. God never gives you more than you can handle. God never closes the door without opening a window. I'm sure God did this for a good reason. No. God does not make death. Even that, everything happens for a reason. If you mean by that God can bring good out of any heartache, I'm with you. But if you mean that God gave my loved one cancer or had them in that car wreck, I do not believe in that kind of God. God does not do that. So what is God doing? This phenomenal gospel gave us so much, but I'll mention two of the amazing things that we saw that Jesus did. The first thing that almost takes my breath away, at the news of the death of his friend Lazarus, what did Jesus do? Jesus wept. Jesus wept. Of course he did. He missed his friend. And that short sentence in the Bible, that two-word sentence, gives lie to the thought that God is somewhere aloof or distant from our pain or does not understand. We have a God who in Jesus knows what it is like to be us. And sometimes I think at times of great heartache, if we could see God, you know what we would see God doing? I think we would see God in Jesus weeping with us. God knows what it is like to grieve. And let no one shame you for your tears. You would not cry if you did not care. And if anyone ever gives you any trouble for your tears, call one of us. We'll come whop them upside the head. Okay, yeah. They come from love, huh? Anyway, I chuckle at this perspective from a child about tears, huh? One summer evening, Mom was tucking her son into the bed, and it was kind of a storm in the distance, and as Mom was about to turn out the lights, he said with a tremble in his little voice, "Mommy, will you sleep with me tonight?" Mom smiled, gave him kind of this little hug. He said, "Oh, no, I have to sleep in Daddy's room." There was a long silence, and finally, in a shaky little voice, he said, "That big sissy?" Yeah. No. Of course, we cry. Grief comes like waves, does it not? It pounds you for a while, and then you're calm. And it pounds you again, and then you're calm. Maybe over the years, the waves come a little less frequently or a little less intensely, except for that rogue wave that comes out of nowhere and knocks you off your feet. Our lives are changed forever, huh? And our grief is complicated when it's death by suicide, or when the relationship with a loved one was strained, or if we were somehow a part of the cause of that death, huh? And then there's that whole mixture of emotions. You know, we have reactions to our reactions. Even while we are sad, sometimes we are relieved that the loved one is no longer suffering, and then we feel guilty that we feel relieved, and then we feel mad that we feel guilty that we feel relieved. It all belongs. It all belongs, huh? Our second perspective on grief from a child comes from this prayer. I will not do it justice. I wish you could hear my niece on the CD in the back. Catherine reads it much better than I do, but it's called "My Heart is Sad, I Miss Her So." Feel free to change the gender if you're thinking of a loved one in particular, huh? My heart is sad, I miss her so. The world is not the same. I miss the way she looked and smelled, the way she said my name. Dear God, the world seems darker now. There's so much in my heart. I wonder how I'll be okay since we are now apart. No one else could take her place. She means so much, you see. Please tell her that I love her, God. Give her a hug for me. Of course, we grieve. And as our second reading said, however, we do not grieve as those who have no hope. Yes, we grieve, but you and I stand at the graveside of a loved one as people of faith, because after Jesus wept, he did that second amazing thing. He stood before the tomb that held the lifeless body of his friend Lazarus, and he called him forth from the tomb. And in that call was the power for Lazarus indeed to step forth from death into life. And God does that to our loved ones as well. I believe that God stands before them and calls them forth into a life beyond what we can see. And it is our faith that love is forever. And God does not quit calling us from our tombs. Even as we trust that God does that for our loved ones who have died, I believe that God does that for those of us left behind. Calls us forth to a deeper living, and that in honor of their lives and in honor of their deaths, you and I are meant to be better people for having known them. We take the best of them in how we live, and God calls that forth from us for the world, huh? What does God do at death? God weeps with us, and God calls us forth from the tomb. I'll end with this story. Once there were twins in their mother's womb. Oh, they were very happy there. They used to play games, stay up late at night, sometimes just enjoyed listening to the comfort of each other's heartbeats. Once there was this great upheaval, and when the one twin opened his eyes again, he saw to his horror that his brother was gone. Oh my gosh, his world seemed so empty now. Now he had no one with whom he could tell stories or play games late into the night. He did not understand how empty his world, how dark and lonely it was. But what he did not realize was what had happened. His brother had been born. He did not even know what it meant to be born. And he could not see the tears of joy in the eyes of mom and dad and other family members to welcome his brother to a life he could have never imagined. All he could see was how empty his world was. And my friends, so it is for us at the death of a loved one. We look around and how empty our world seems, and it is. There's an emptiness that we don't have their presence to walk with us, to be next to us. But it is our faith that our loved ones who have died have in fact been born into a life beyond what we can see. And we do not get to see the tears of joy in the eyes of God and our loved ones who've gone before us, who welcome them home. We don't even know what it means to be born into that life. My brothers and sisters, remember our scriptures, they don't say, do not grieve. They say, do not grieve as those who have no hope. For our hearts might be broken, but we stand firm in the promise that there is a life beyond what we can see, and love is forever. And we trust that Jesus, again and again, calls forth life from death. He gets a little shy around children he doesn't know, but I'm going to tell him he doesn't have to be afraid of you. You at least look nice. Come on out, Big Al. It's okay. They're nice. Where am I? Well, Big Al, we're at Our Lady of the Snows. Why? Well, Big Al, it's okay. We're here to have a special prayer for all of our loved ones who have died. Sad. Oh yeah, Big Al. When someone we love dies, there's an empty place in our hearts. It is indeed sad. Sorry. Oh, you're sorry that you're crying? Oh, Big Al, you don't have to be sorry that you're crying. Jesus cried when his friend died. I call those tears holy water because they come from love. And Big Al, if I were to ask you, where are our loved ones who have died? Now, what would you say? With God. Ah, we do pray them into the arms of God. More. What? More? Our hearts. Ah, you're right. We keep the best of them alive in our hearts. Idea. What's your idea? Oh, that's good. I'll tell them. Boys and girls, Big Al said that when you love someone who dies and you miss them a whole bunch, you could ask God to give them what, Big Al? A hug. A hug. I'm sure God would do just that. Okay, I'll tell him. Anything else? Go Cardinals.
Anyway, so hey, yeah.